Let's jump into this because I got a lot of questions and we got limited time. As you can see, here's really quickly, you can show the Solutionary Volume 1 and 2. Go check it out. Maj, something happened yesterday, or it was reported yesterday, that was pretty amazing, and it was kind of awesome that you're coming on. This is from Connor Boyack. Meet 12-year-old Jaiden, who was kicked out of class yesterday in Colorado Springs for having a Gadsden flag patch, which the school claims has origins with slavery. The school's director said via email that this patch was disruptive to classroom environment.
Doesn't the regular American flag have origins with slavery?
It's hanging right behind us here, but let's take a quick look at what happened, and then we'll go into it, because it's like this. They knew the media gods knew you were coming on, Maj, so they put this right in our laps. Let's take a quick listen, and then we'll get your opinions.
Thank you. Do they know what the Gadsden flag is? That it's a historical flag?
So the reason that they do not want the flag, the reason we do not want the flag displayed is due to its origins with slavery and slave trade. That is what was, that's the reasoning behind them do not want this displayed.
The Gadsden flag?
The Don't Tread on Me.
Okay. Which is the Gadsden flag? Okay. Okay, so he's what's going to happen if he doesn't take it off?
He is able to go. I was actually just telling him, like, I was upset that he was missing so much school. I'm like, so I asked if can he just take his stuff out of his bag and go back to class. Like, I just want him to go back to class. The bag can't go back. It's got the patch on it because we can't have that in and around other kids. So that's what I was trying, and then he said you were close. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with slavery. That's like the Revolutionary War patch that was displayed when they were fighting the British. Like that's the revolution. Maybe you're thinking of like the Confederate flag.
Okay,
So, just two quick questions. Who is this woman who doesn't know what she's talking about?
She was the teacher.
She's the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, so that patch is from the Revolutionary War.
It was one of three independent patches.
It showed unification against the British.
Yes.
And so they don't know what they're talking about.
No. But they also twist it and say nowadays it means something different.
It doesn't mean that you can't do that.
Well, that's what they're trying to say.
I'm sorry.
Tell that to Mrs. Dingbatch, third period.
Okay.
Maj, did you want to say something there?
So first and foremost, the teacher is 100% right. It is going to disturb the school because the school is there to propagandize children to be willing slaves. That patch speaks to unification against tyranny. Schools, public indoctrination camps are pretty much there to indoctrinate children that parents don't really give them any information at home. So that's what that means. So as it relates to her saying, it would be disturbing the students and things like that, she is 100% right because it disturbs the agenda, 1,000%. As it relates to her, I pray, meditate, whatever, that she's not a history teacher because in that part of the game, she's 1,000% wrong. I think that, an argument could be made in a liberal or so-called liberal or progressive school. That argument can be made that the American flag has roots in captivity or slavery.
Yeah.
So I get what she just stumbled onto, the clock being the broke clock being, right twice a day. She stumbled onto that one and that's just an argument to be made. But the reality is she doesn't really know what she's talking about. I think that FBI a few years ago, or not the FBI, but the Department of Homeland Security, put the Gadsden flag and a few other flags. A good guy that runs Fieldcraft Survival, Mike Glover, they put his company's logo and a bunch of patriotic logos as so-called domestic terrorist signs.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that teacher saw that story and she's associating it. I would love to know who even brought it to her attention. And I would also love to know or hope that maybe she's a math teacher, not a history teacher.
Well, Maj, first of all, this kid's mother is teaching him to think for himself and stand up for himself. And we can't have that in our schools. We can't have our kids thinking for themselves. I'm going to play the rest of the video and we'll carry on with the story. Check it out.
So I
Is
am
there a
just here
history
to
to that
enforce,
town?
no, I am here to enforce the policy that was provided by the district.
I'm just following orders.
And definitely, you have every right to not agree with it. I mean,
Yeah, because the ACLU
absolutely.
says that he's allowed to wear that. If you like go on their website, it's like says in big
So,
letters.
all I'm saying is that.
Unless there's like a ban on patches, period. Like you said, there's no patches allowed at the school. You cannot display what you think or anything like that, or what cheer or anything like that. I think it's like one-sided, you know, because you allow some patches but not other
Other
patches.
kids have patches like other names and like the American flag and backpacks.
Yeah. That was like flown during the revolution, but yeah, I just don't understand that at all.
So what I can do is.
And
have
if you go onto the
speak to our-
ACLU's website, yeah, let's talk to
I
someone.
can
'Cause don't
have
want
you
a
speak
lawsuit. I really
to,
don't.
I can have you speak to our Jeff Yoakum
Okay.
again.
Okay.
And then he can refer you to our person at the district.
Okay.
Because like I said, we're following district policy is what we're doing. So the last thing I want is him out of class.
Yeah, I
Like,
know
that's all
he
the last
takes
thing I
his
want.
classes seriously,
Yes.
he studies, he wants to get straight A's, he did that. He made honor roll when he was here before. He intends to do that again right now, but it's hard because he keeps missing class for this. So,
I understand that.
yeah, and I mean, we teach him to always stick up for your beliefs, and I mean, you're going over the revolution for 7th grade. I mean, the founding fathers stood up for what they believed in against unjust laws.
And that's pretty much what it was about. They go in there and she gives him more guff about, oh, this is what I was told
Where
to
was
do.
this?
And this is in Colorado Springs. And
Let me guess, was there blowback?
there was blowback. And, you know, they said originally that they admitted the flag originated with the Revolutionary War, right? And it was non-racial. But the director then argued that the flag is now associated with hate groups.
By who?
By people who write articles like this from The Conversation. Symbols of white supremacy flew proudly at the Capitol riot. 5 essential reads. So that's what they tried to do. They tried to kind of pigeonhole it to say that it's now associated with hate groups, with domestic terrorism, which it was not originally that. And then they classified it as refer to drugs, tobacco, and alcohols and weapons when they were trying to uphold the kid's suspension. But after all the pushback, they came back and they said that the kid has the right to wear it. Upon learning these events today, the Vanguard School Board of Directors called for an emergency meeting from the foundation. And they said the kid could then, at this time, go back to class and he can wear the patch. So they pretty much retracted their statement. Maj, your thoughts on this? When people say that this particular flag is associated with white supremacy, do you think there's a white supremacy problem in the United States? And how would we combat that?
I don't believe in what people are calling white supremacy. No, there's no supreme race over anything. I think that concept is a misnomer. Do I think that there's people that are bigoted? Do I think there's people that are racist? But I'm a person that pays attention to etymology and the power of words. No white dude that doesn't like me is superior or supreme to me or any other group of people. Period. So I don't even believe in that concept. I know what people are trying to say. I know what they mean by it. But I try to infuse that into the situation. Anyone that believes that one group is superior or inferior to another, more than likely that person has an inferiority complex themselves.
Yeah, right.
That's aiding as a superiority, and it's not. Now, if you work really, really hard at finance or civics or open heart surgery and you're superior in that skill set, great. I'll say this person shoots better or reads better, performs open heart surgery better. That's it. So no, I don't think in that term, no. Now, do we have a issue with race in America? Race is always going to be linked in America. We can just as easily as I can say Thomas Paine was telling Thomas Jefferson and those types of dudes around that same time period, hey guys, we can't do the owning of humans. We can't do it. And even though it was more of a social norm, they made a choice. Some of those guys, not all of them, some of those guys made a choice to still participate while they were trying to overturn it. So there's a nuance and a contextual thing that goes along with that. You got to tell that full story. Anyone that says the founders were altruistic and they had great intentions and they executed those intentions wonderfully and perfectly, that person is lying or ignorant. Anyone that says every single founder was 100% racist, they hated black people, they owned black people, they da-da-da-da, that person is wrong and misinformed too. Our history is so nuanced that you have to tell it from a holistic perspective. So yes, race is inextricably linked in America. The racist practice of gun control is older than America. The black codes, the slave codes, it's there. Now, do I think that there's legions of so-called white supremacists walking around kidnapping people and like lighting crosses on fire every Tuesday at the Denny's? No. I think that's like a scare tactic. As it relates to this symbol, I know why they say that. Because people, as evidenced in that tweet, people that are about patriotism and liberty and have an understanding of certain historical facts that others may not, right? They may have that flag around, and that person is aggressive about their defense of their freedoms. That person may be obviously more than likely would be a pro-gun or a pro-Second Amendment person. Sometimes that translates into that picture that they just showed at January 6th meeting. That goes in alignment sometimes with the picture of or the flag of the Confederate flag. So I get why they say that, but again, it's contextual. The Gadsden flag by itself is so anything can be associated. You can stand next to something and be associated with it. So, but no, I don't think that the way that they're trying to spin it, especially from a state indoctrination camp, I don't think that they have the information right. And I don't think they're in a moral position to dictate what is right. These are the same type of school systems that would advocate that that child, if they wanted to transgender themselves, that child would not tell their parents and those teachers would not tell those parents. So they don't have the moral position to make the positions that they're taking, nor do they have the historical reference and framing that they're trying to package this flag as.
You could tell how that teacher's talking that nothing about it is anything to do with history. She didn't know it was called a Gadsden flag. She's like, oh, that's one of those symbols that has cooties. And that's as far as her thought went about it. Yeah. She probably knows no history before 2016. Like, they should start time over again. Like AD, we start counting from when Trump was elected because no history counts whatsoever to any of these people.
Yeah, and we're hoping that she's a math teacher, by the way, right? So,
yeah, 100%.
Well, let's talk about this because you said that there's a little nuanced about it, and you kind of mentioned that you understand when people use the term white supremacy, right? I don't know if it's the best term because I think there's always been a ruling class, and there's been a bunch of white people who don't have a lot of power, and I don't understand where a lot of the politicians, when you talk about like Jamal Bowman and Ayanna Pressley, who are going through this whole situation with Vivek and saying, how dare you say this about black people? How do we send a message across when clearly white people do have privileges in the United States over some black people?
You're a class reductionist.
Especially when you look at the incarceration. Per capita, a lot more black men are incarcerated than white people. However, I think so many people are fixated on those who have the privileges rather than go after the people who are doling out the privileges, which are the ruling class. How do you look and talk about the nuances of white supremacy when it comes to that factor right there?
You have to say it very holistically. If I say we're in a post-racial America because there's clearly been progress since my grandmom was my age, clearly, right? But we cannot act like that there's still not systemic issues. When you bring up the prison industrial complex, that's the perfect example of we're supposedly 13, maybe 14% of the population, but all of these rules for mostly non-violent drug possession just happens to land on the doorstep of all of the black people, right? And then it justifies and say, well, if you blacks weren't committing the crimes, blah 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 blah. Clearly, there's in there. We just got to be honest about it and say, like, listen, bro. The prison industrial complex is designed to target black people. It is clearly contradictory and unconstitutional. We in Black communities have been saying this for eons. For eons. The problem is sometimes, and maybe, well-to-do white folks, middle class, because my lower to middle class people that were raised in a certain culture understand that and respect it. My white homies that still might make $600,000-$700,000 a year, but they might have grown up in Philly right next to me. They understand that cultural difference and that to the class argument. So my point here is, when you educate the person based on a genuine, holistic conversation, then you'll start to get some progress. Then you start to say, well, who's coming up with these rules? Then you can start looking back at history. You can look at things where melanated people and maybe not so melanated people work together. Bacon's Rebellion in Virginia comes to mind, right? So when we're talking about the class struggle and races uniting against the so-called elite, because I don't even like that term. You're not elitist. You're not elite. You just been more manipulative over time than we have. So saying this to say, when you educate people fully and you show the commonalities. So for example, I don't care where you go in the world. I do not care. There is going to be a dish, a food dish that has chicken and rice. I do not care where you go. The seasoning may be different. Some people will put sazon on it. Some people will put whatever on it, right? Some people use basmati rice if you happen to be in that region of the world. You're still going to have a chicken and rice. You're a bodybuilder, you're going to eat boiled chicken and white rice. Like that's find those commonalities and respect and understand the differences, but that has to come through a genuine conversation. If one group is saying everything in America is all racist all the time, they're lying and they're wrong. If the other group is saying nothing in America is racist and has never been because slavery happened in everywhere, well, I'll introduce you to chattel slavery that America introduced to the world. My point in saying that is there's a difference between indentured servitude and chattel slavery in the transatlantic slave trade. The MAFA is a travesty, a horrific nightmare. We just got to be honest about that. That does not mean that if I happen to be Black American, melanated, and if I say this, that this means all of you white people are white devils. That's not what that means. If you're saying, hey, what are the issues where Black communities are going to jail a lot for these things, we can unfold that question. And this does not mean that happens to be a white dude, that he's saying, you Blacks have a genetic predisposition for crime, right? That's not what they're saying. We have to take a educated, holistic, objective, genuinely trying to listen and learn and share perspective about the nuanced history. That is the reason why they don't put those symbols in those schools, because it creates a conversation. Now that teacher knows what that Gadsden flag means. Now she knows that, oh, that's not what that means. If she has a slither of objectivity, she then, when she runs across a different symbol or flag, she goes, well, I wonder what this one means, because I thought the other flag meant this, but maybe it meant this. This is where the dialogue, and I want to commend that teacher. She wasn't rude from what we saw. She was misinformed. And kudos to those parents for standing their ground and communicating very effectively and respectfully. That's what we have to do in order to knock down this thing and get past this farce of this thing as if white people are superior to anything. Like, that's just not true.
Yep. By the way, Maj, you can call the elites. We don't call them the elites. We call them the predator class. That's what we like to call them, the predator class. And that's taken off. And by the way, he mentioned the Bacon's Revolution. That's the revolution, I believe, where the slaves got together with the people and the farmers, and they started a revolution, but it was shot down pretty quickly.
Come see us live on tour. We're going to be in Toledo, Detroit, St. Louis, Tampa, Boca Raton, Orlando, Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.